welcome to the first online summit dedicated to dating and couple relationships. We are in the 7th day. I chose the 7th day to be split in two with a specific reason. 7 is the divine number. This is how it's said in numerology. And divine also means extremes, yin and yang, black and white, good and bad, so on and so forth. So I chose specifically this day to be split in two. Half of it will be dedicated to abuse in relationships, and half of this will be connected with what I call divine. You don't have to agree with me; it's my choice. We will be having interviews connected with energy and past lives and ancestors, family constellations. So lots of interesting discussions, but also we will be discussing about pain. What does it mean, abuse, so on and so forth. And today I have a very, very dear and special invite for the interview, Elina. And before introducing her, I need to tell you how I met Elina, because it's a very funny story. Lots of people told me that I'm crazy at that time. A very long time ago, I decided to subscribe to a Facebook group of Bucharest expats. And that group was very passive. They usually didn't have messages. I was not getting any notification. So I forgot about that group. And one evening, quite late, around 10 o'clock, I got a notification from that group of Bucharest expats, and it was Elina posting, "Is anyone interested in past lives regression?" And without second thoughts, I commented, "I am." I was indeed interested. I do believe that in reincarnation. It's kind of, I also believe in God. I also believe in a couple of traditions, but I chose to believe that we go from one body to another and learn different lessons so that the soul matures and we become wise. And in the end, we can help people do different stuff, improve their lives. So we met, we talked, we discovered some common background at that time. And we decided that I will be joining a program she designed at that time. My personal context was not the happiest at that point. I was in quite a deep depression, finishing emotionally a relationship that was very significant for me and which ended quite abrupt at that time, leaving me with lots of questions. And that was the first dim, actually, at the time of the first regression. And I do remember that when we had our first sessions, I had only one phrase: "Please bring me back." Because there are people who need me with my mind in one place, so please bring me back. Not only that, Elina brought me back, but in 8 sessions, we managed to, she helped me understand why my latest relationship was so hard and so painful for me. We closed some soul contracts that were not beneficial, neither for me, neither for my ex-partner. We did some inner child healing. We closed other past life, I feel like calling them mistakes, but there are better words for sure. And in less than 8 months, because we were having maybe one session every 3 weeks, I was optimistical, healed from the past relationship, no more suffering, happy, more awake from spiritual point of view, more in contact with myself. So it was one of the best decisions of my life, purely intuitively. I didn't even know anything about Elina, what studies does she have. I just followed my soul and my intuition, and it was a good thing. So after we finished those sessions, we kind of became friends. At least this is what my perception is. So it's an honor, a pleasure, and a joy to have you in this event, in this interview, Elina. I will ask you to present yourself because, you know, I know some things about you, but lots of people would like to know what kind of studies do you have and what exactly do you do, and why did you choose this line of therapy and not the classical one? So I allow you to talk now because you are my invite. Welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrea. I can definitely agree to everything you have said so far, and how we met also was quite unexpected. Although my personal belief is that nothing happens without reason.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many will agree to that. And the biggest, most beautiful things in life always also kind of, you know, approach when we least expect. So that's another thing to kind of keep behind the ear always, and remember, you know, when the times are tough, they are going to change because the things change and things happen for a reason. And I have to say, I'm really excited to be here. I have no idea just yet where this conversation is going to take us, but I'm sure it's going to be great. So you asked about my background. So I'm very happy to introduce also what I do more specifically. In simple words, as you already mentioned, I'm a therapist. I can call myself non-traditional or holistic therapist, but that would be putting it in a kind of a certain box of just leading in therapy. More specifically, I'm a hypnotherapist. I do past life regressions. Although I never really like the word therapist or therapy, because it gives off some kind of a clinical vibe to people sometimes, or for most, what I've heard, it's, you know, when something is wrong with you, you need to go and seek out therapy. You're going to therapy to fix yourself, and then you will get better. No, there's never anything wrong with us. No, there's never anything wrong with anybody. We all deal with life, you know, experiences, with challenges, with roadblocks, with problems, with issues, with lessons, mistakes, you call it as you will. It's part of life and it's normal. There's nothing ever wrong with us. But when we do feel that we kind of, you know, fall into those challenges a bit too deep, that's when people seek out my help usually. So I'd rather say I'm more as a guide, and I'll tell you why. Because nobody can really do the healing for you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's almost as if, you know, when you think back at school, and let's say you have the mathematics class or a language class, and then you ask your friend to do your homework. What happens at the end of the year? You have an exam, but you have not learned a thing. And this is no different. Therapy is no different than doing that homework and doing all that studying for yourself. And then you learn, and you never will make that same mistake again, you know, the one that you came in with in the first place, perhaps. But again, I don't like the word mistake either. It's just something that leads you into a certain challenge, you know, and that's more of an outcome. So I rather guide my clients. I guide them on beautiful journeys, deep within themselves. And that's something that we all need a hand with. We all need help with. And I do that with help of different methods. Again, it's hard to box, you know, into certain things only that we do. Some people, you know, it's depending on what is really needed for each person, because some people, they prefer to start slow, go slow, and that's all right. And we just sit and talk. We talk about life. We talk about the things, you know, these steps of how you have gotten to the point where you are at the moment, for example. We talk about all the things around that subject and more, so they can actually see what's going on in their life right here, right now, from 360 kind of point of view. And then they make their own decision what to do with that. With others, we go on deep journeys. My journeys take into a deep meditative state usually, and we do loads of different things, again, depending on what each person needs at any given moment. I work with hypnosis. We sometimes do inner child healing. Sometimes we go into womb healing, the state where we are just about to be born. There's loads and loads of work usually to be done for nearly everybody. We do clear out childhood trauma, teenage years, teenage trauma. There is a lot, and people, you know, kind of brush the teenage years off. Oh no, that was a crazy time, that was like full of hormones. But now we do pick up a lot of stuff in regards to our relationships, especially during the teenage years. So we do that. We do work on clients' ancestral line. A lot of issues, if I can say so, come also from our ancestors. And I'm not talking about just our mother or father or grandmother or grandfather. It's even hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years carried through and forward type of subjects or topics or patterns. So it's loads of different things that we can actually inherit from our ancestors. And if you're dealing with it, it's time to clear it out, not just for your ancestors, but for yourself, for your own future. And sometimes we go into future progression. Let's say you have dreams and wishes and goals, but you just have no clue where to go, which one to pick, which one will which one will work out better for you. And we can have a look at that. We can see what blockages you may be dealing with on the way. We can match your future potential probability against you as a person of who you are. So there are lots of little things we can do. And my own favorite, of course, is the past life regression. We do regress throughout, backwards throughout our own life and into our past lives. So that's what we do. We have a lot of different tools, again, depending on what each person needs at any given moment. And during our sessions, we usually draw parallels on how a single problem affects all of our bodies. That might be news to some people. Some other people might already know about this, that everything is connected. We have so many bodies. We have the mental, we have the emotional body, we have the energetic body that literally gives us the fuel to do things in life. When you kind of just clap your hands and just move them a little bit, you can feel more energetic. That's our energetic body. And we have the physical body, of course, and many other layers. We are connected. And if you, let's say, for example, have a destructive limiting belief about yourself, trust me that first of all, you'll feel bad about it. You'll feel bad about yourself. That's your emotional body. Your energy will be low. You might not be able to attract the things that you want because of that limiting belief. And trust me that also if I look at your, let's say, blood test chart or, examine your health, there's also going to be a health issue related to that. So everything is related. And what do? We usually just grab all of that we know, all of the facts, all of the experiences that we have right here and now about a certain issue. And no matter what the problem area is, we grab it and together we look for the very origins, the very roots to that problem. And as a result of these sessions, my clients usually get to completely rewrite their narrative they're living. In other words, they change their own lives. Because that's really important to heal, by yourself. Nobody can do it for you. You can have the guidance. But then they learn how to heal for themselves. They learn how to find the things that they need to find out during the process. And they come out the other end completely changed.
What made you decide to choose this line of guidance? Instead of, classical Rogerian therapy or, talking therapy, I call it, or other, why this and not other stuff? It's like in medicine, why neurosurgeon instead of generalist? So what drove you?
That's a very good question. Here I can tell you actually the story how I got to the point where I am these days, doing what I do, because I think that very well also will answer how is it that it's not the clinical therapy, but rather something like this, again, the word, non-traditional. Well, first of all, clinical therapy or talk therapy is beautiful, but it can get you that far. When we start things off, when we start just getting to know ourselves, what's going on, what are the feelings that we're feeling, for example, when we just start drawing those connections, clinical therapy or just simple talk therapy is amazing. It gets you analyze things, it gets you sit down and feel things. But when we speak about, looking at things even deeper than that, then that just cuts a bit short. So different type of approaches that don't exactly fall within the clinical therapy, the different type of approaches, those kind of allow your consciousness to be taken much, much further, much, much deeper if you're ready. And if you're going there, then you're already ready. And there is just so much more that you can do with that information there deep inside, with that's hiding deep inside yourself. And you bring that information and you can utilize that information. So that's almost sort of to say a bit of an advanced level in a way when we come to deal with our emotions or feelings. And another thing about this is my own journey. Simply, I can tell you straight away, I come from a medical family. It was also...
I didn't know that about you.
There you go. So actually, medical background is quite familiar to me. And at some point, even I myself was considering to go into medicine. Why not? But that didn't happen to really work out for me. It wasn't my path. My journey actually started around age 12. It's a very, very, very young age. I started getting these really, really severe, crazy, weird headaches now and then. And what I remember, it was quite a while ago, if I have to remember it back now, the teachers just used to send me, home, go home, you're in pain, it's okay, come back tomorrow. And that happened now and then throughout the year. And if I have to fast forward now a few years, these headaches grew longer, they grew stronger, and they started taking longer periods over the days as well. Let's say if it was just a day for a few hours, then it kind of grew into several days, then several weeks over years.
Oh my God.
And that was quite weird to explain, because it wasn't really a migraine, because that would be usually, something that doctors kind of go, first of all, they check you for migraine, but none of the medication was working that is usually prescribed for migraine. So these weird headaches just kept happening and they became seasonal. If again, I have to fast forward a few years, around age 18, if I remember correctly, these headaches got so bad that they came at least once a year. They stayed for about 3.5 months each year. And they were so strong. They were almost like, switching my body off. I was fainting from the pain.
Oh my God.
Sometimes I was throwing up constantly, and they came during the night. These were some sort of attacks that just came straight away in 1 second, and you're just there. So I was fighting these headaches. Nobody could tell me what it was. And imagine, I come from medical type of family. And I still have so much thanks to give to my mom and those that were around me during these really horrible periods of times. And seriously, I can't imagine how it was for them. But yeah, long story short, again, I was, I had been through all the possible medical tests and analysis and all the kinds of doctors that you can even imagine, the smartest ones even in the country. And nobody could tell me what it was. Until another couple of years later, I did come across a doctor, and she found what these headaches were all about. She sat me down and she said, look, you have cluster headaches. For those who have no clue what cluster headaches are, cluster headaches are classified as the world's most painful illness that a human can have. So imagine if a gunshot is less painful than these headaches, or giving birth is less painful than these headaches. So that was even remembering now the story back, you know, it is a bit quite blurry, to be honest, for me, because the pain was so severe. It's just kept, you know, switching my body off. But so regardless, she said, yes, so you have these cluster headaches. And I said, oh, well, great, you finally found what's wrong with me. And then she said, but we're so sorry, we don't really know what causes them, and we don't really have any cure for it. And that was the end of the road almost. Nothing helped. I was on morphine that didn't help anymore. I was on every single painkiller that didn't help anymore. And the next episode comes again. It's 4th month in. I was, you know, in my early 20s by then. And I seriously swear to God, I have no clue where I gathered this inner strength, where it came from. But I thought to myself, I was just so angry. I thought to myself, listen, it's either I just die or I find a way out. I have to cure myself. Nobody's able to help me. It's either or. There's no other option. I couldn't work properly, couldn't study properly, couldn't have proper life. And that's it, you know? And I did it. What did I do? I started studying. I started gathering all the information that I can find, starting from what the nervous system is, what's going on with our brain, how does pain work, you know, basically all these connections between the body, the mind, the spiritual, the emotional, the energetic. So I started drawing these parallels. I studied it. And what do you know? One day, I just cleared them away. Next time the episodes came again, that was the next year, cleared them away again. As simple as that. That's somehow how I, you know, discovered this field with one foot. However, what do you think? You know, you have this little voice inside of you, and it's just telling you things. Maybe you should go into that field. You know a lot of stuff, apparently, you know, it works. You could just study a bit more, maybe help others. You have had these experiences. But then, you know, this little voice at the back of your head is kind of really small. It's very quiet usually. I'm sure many can relate as well. You know, this little voice just telling you things. Don't go there or do that. And you go like, nah. You know, so of course I didn't do much about it. I kept studying though. It was very interesting for me. I kept gathering the knowledge and I practiced on myself and other people and you know, these meditations and psychotherapeutical type of tools and regression therapies even and many other things, but I never actually did anything about it. So that was already quite few years again, fast forward, and that voice just didn't give up. No matter what jobs I had, no matter what I did, no matter where I was, my voice just didn't give up. And what do you think I did? Like every normal human being, I of course ignored that voice again. You know, for years in fact. And I continued to actually develop the weirdest illnesses. Apart from those headaches, there are quite a few other ones. And to be honest with you, I had to go through surgery to cut the tumor out. I had to deal with severe depression on the way. I had a lot of panic attacks back then. At the same time, anxiety and a bunch of other health issues and non-health issues even. I was miserable. I was so unhappy with my life, with my job, with my relationships, and you know, with everything that was going on around me. Until at some point, not that far from, you know, that age over there, life somehow reorganized things for me. where maybe I subconsciously reorganized the things for myself, where I literally had no other choice but to start over, to start from scratch. I had to move, I had to change my job, I had to change relationships, I had to, break up with whomever I was with back then. So I had to start from blank. It's like opening a new blank page. What do you do with that? And that wasn't really a bad thing though, because it came with this understanding that, look, it's been years, you've been studying, you've been gathering this knowledge, you've been gathering experiences. And it's time to take that voice seriously for once. And what do you know, I did. And years later, I can say I've never been happier in, almost every area of my life, I can say. And especially doing what I do now, I've found myself on the way. I found my place in the world. I've learned how things work, how to, navigate the life's challenges, why they even happen. And most of all, I get to help others too on that path, regardless of what they're going through. So answering your question, clinical versus non-traditional, the non-traditional actually gave me a way out. It was a journey, quite a long journey where the traditional, it's great as it is, the clinical therapy, everything clinical, medicine and medication, and all this industry, it exists for a reason. We need it, but it takes you only that far. So in my case, it was definitely, the scales were kind of clear which way to go.
Listening to your story, that I didn't know. I didn't know this journey that you had. What amazes me is that the common experience that we have. I also got a very weird disease when I was 12 with terrible pains. Basically, my whole left leg hurt like hell. But for me, it was a quite fixed period of time until I went to faculty for about 8 years. And at that time, I also went to every possible doctor. I had never had a clear diagnosis about what the hell is happening and why am I in so much pain. I also had the highest crisis during the night. I got addicted to pills for a while. We have algocalmine, I don't know how to translate it in English, but it was a very popular one, and I was taking a lot, maybe 10 per day, something like that. I was the one realizing that I have a problem. Nobody noticed that I'm taking lots of pills. They're kind of happy that I'm not crying anymore. And I managed to reduce it and also get the pain under control. I still have it from time to time, especially when I'm really, really stressed out. Or when something, it's like an expression of emotional hurt, And when the inner child is crying, my left leg is hurting. And I cannot sleep, for example, on the left side when I'm in an emotional period of time. And I also had a tumor on my left ovary that I had to remove when I was 28. I'm amazed about the common stuff that we have. And we are both holistic ladies. You chose the path as a job. I am better with talking about it. More like a teacher, and it's one of my favorite stuff. But I was amazed listening to you because I didn't know this stuff about you. It was amazing to hear it. Thank you for sharing. And one thing that I would like to tell people, you're not the first person that I'm interviewing who changed the career path. And I think it's a global perception of many people. If I graduated a certain faculty or I chose a certain path at one time or for a long period of time, I cannot change it. And I kept on saying, yes, you can. Yes, you can, because the soul is calling you out. You are not on your path. This is not who you are now. You are not born for this. And I recently had a guy who actually worked for, he started his life as a basketball player or something like that, or volley. Anyway, some sort of sport. He was pretty successful about it. Then he opened up an IT company with a friend of his, and he worked for a long time in that company. But his soul was pushing him. This is not for you. This is not for you. This is not for you. And now he's a therapist. He has he's doing workshops with family constellations, healing the ancestors line, you know, but also inner child. And he's the happiest since I met him. So when I met him, he was still working in a IT company. He was not happy, neither unhappy, but he was not happy. And now he's glowing. No, he looks younger, feels younger, talks younger, smiles all the time, has lots of nice stories to tell. So choosing a different career path is possible no matter your age. And I keep on providing the example of KFC founder. I believe he was 60 when he founded KFC.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's a very good example. He just liked to cook chicken, and then he opened a business about on this one when he was in the retiring stage, and it was like a major boom. Just don't give up hope. Don't give up hope.
I agree.
I'm using your example because I'm also in the process of changing my career path. I have been an HR for 19 years. I love the job, but I love even more what I do now. And right now, I'm doing them in parallel. What I can tell you is that HR provides me money, amazing experiences with candidates, because I love people. I generally love people, and I'm a good copydon. But Leah provides me energy. And this is how you will know. When you do something and instead of consuming energy, you are getting energy, that's your path. Just just go with it.
I always say the same. You know, it's almost like when you're on the wrong path. Well, I can't say it's wrong, but it's like you're off your path, really. It's almost like you're dragging your feet throughout the day, so you don't want to wake up in the morning. You're thirsty. And the moment you switch things up, you come back to you, to yourself, to your own path. It's almost like you just drink water, you know, after you've been thirsty for a million years. And it feels refreshing and it feels good. And it's true, I always give the same example, you know, go for the things that fuel you, where you feel energy, like this spark just pushing you forward. You'll feel it. And it doesn't happen, these changes don't have to happen fast. They don't have to happen, you know, tomorrow. We phase into things, but make a decision what it is that you want. Make a decision. And this applies for jobs. This applies for relationships. This applies to health. It applies to our inner state. Make a decision. Do I want that or that? Or maybe I just don't know yet, but I'm making a decision to explore, because also that is a decision. Once decision is made, it can be put in action.
I totally agree. And for those who are wondering, I'm 45, soon to be. And Leah, it's the third business that I'm opening. So I never gave up. I had 2 recruiting companies that were providing me lots of money. I earned lots of money, but I was not happy. And now, Leah is eating my money on monthly basis. And I am happy about each cent that I'm spending and each hour that I'm spending dedicating to it. And it's amazing. I highly recommend this. Just don't lose hope. That's very important.
Yes.
So going to past lives, because it's like, I wouldn't say it's a taboo, but there are so many religions and perspectives, so on and so forth, that past lives are I believe that many people who are actually believing in past lives are, at least in Romania, are keeping these opinions to themselves. Because at least in Romania, we are a very religious company. Most of them are in Orthodox orientation. And it's like, I cannot believe in God and also in past lives. I do believe in God. I'm also unorthodox, and I also believe in past lives. And I never felt conflicted about it. But again, as you said earlier, it's a matter of choice. I chose to believe in this. I believe in Orthodox God and the Bible that I was raised in, also in past lives, but also in energy, you know, and somatic therapy and so on and so forth. I chose this because this is how I choose to live. But this is a very interesting subject. And I will tell you, when I had the first clear contact with past lives, that I resonated so much that I still remember the movie. I believe I was around 10 or something. It was soon after our local revolution, soon after that. And we had only one television at that time. And so everybody was watching movies. During the communist era, we rarely had nice movies to watch, you know. And it was a movie about a lady that was followed to be killed by a guy, and nobody could understand why. Nobody could understand why. And she was really scared. And in the end, the guy died somehow. I don't remember. But it was the question mark. Why? They didn't know each other. They had absolutely nothing, no past history together. So together with the therapist, she did some hypnotherapy, and she went back. And she found out that they actually were something like lovers in the past, and she cheated on him, and she married somebody else, and he was really, really angry. And the story was based on the true story. So the movie was based on a true story because they managed to find the graves of both characters, the lady and the guy who was planning to kill her, from the past. And the pictures were identical and so on and so forth. So this was like really, really weird. Lots of people were like, oh, I don't know, it's just a movie. But for me, it resonated so much that, I don't know, so many years later, I still remember the movie in details. That was my first contact with past lives. Somehow I knew, you know, because it's not the place to get into these discussions, but I was talking yesterday with a lady, and she was telling me that her younger child is telling her about her past lives. Fortunately, she's very open-minded, so she just entertains the discussion because we are born with the knowledge and then we forget it, but it's not the place to go there and talk about it. But it is a place to ask you straightforward. Why would a person that was never in contact with this kind of information believe in past lives? And, you know, we have this saying of Toma, the non-believer. Why a Toma non-believer would accept the concept of past lives? What proofs can you provide? You know, like in a trial. Convince me, please.
Very good question. First of all, we have the same saying from where I come from. I come from Latvia, to let you know. We have the same saying, the non-believer Tom. Secondly, I need that name of the movie, please.
I don't remember it because I looked for it.
We'll have to Google it then.
If you find it, please provide it to me.
I will actually look into it. This is very interesting, and you know, this is actually one of the proofs how we do meet the subject of past lives. Somebody shows it to us, whether it's a movie, whether somebody comes and tells us things about past lives or soul or, you know, energies or whatever it is that some people even might find weird, and that's okay. Because we're not born knowing things, all the things all together. We're far from that. We're like that, you know, blank book that we keep filling with knowledge, with experiences, with all kinds of stuff. And when we talk about past lives and proofs, There's actually loads that I can mention. And I always say, take what resonates. We all have past lives. At least I've always, as far as I've led sessions, I've never come across to a person who has not had a single past life. We all have past lives. It's extremely rare to find a soul who doesn't have any. It's a different matter that we don't remember these past lives.
Of course.
We all have them. So one way definitely would be for those, for example, who were a lot into meditations, a lot into, inner work by themselves, whether they go to practices or do it themselves. Accidentally coming across a past life is very, very high chance. Let's say, you sit there and meditate, and that has happened to me personally as well. Not a lot, but it has happened. You just sit there and meditate, and by meditate, I don't mean, counting sheep or trying to get rid of your thoughts. That's one way, but there's so many different ways of meditation. You can just sit down and feel things and see where they lead you. Question yourself in that calm state of meditation, and it can lead you actually into a past life, kind of by accident.
What happened to me? I shit myself when it happened. If you remember, it was like really, really scary at the beginning.
Yes, and you kind of feel it. You feel the difference, whether it's just your mind's story, mind's layer of something it's presenting to you through your visual or through your other senses, or it's a past life, because the feeling is very different. It is a bit scary for the first time or times, when you enter in a past life. You can't meddle with things much, and you still feel everything as if you are there. But regardless of that, that can happen. We can just land in a past life by accident, when we're meditating. Another thing is dreams. We can actually dream of past lives sometimes. And here's one for a fact: reoccurring dreams. 100%, as far as I have experienced it, through my clients, 100%, it's always about the past life. Recurring dreams. Recurring dreams, for those who don't know what that is basically a dream that keeps replaying itself over and over again. And then you go to sleep, I don't know, a day or a month later, again, this dream comes up, all the same contents, and usually they're less of a dreams and more of a nightmares. And I can tell you a story here. Quite a while ago, a young gentleman came to me, and he said, look, I can't sleep. I already am developing insomnia. I have this recurring dream. I've heard that maybe it's a past life, it's something else, long story short. We took that recurring dream, and he was always dreaming the same thing. And this dream just came too often for him, where he just couldn't sleep properly. And it was a nightmare, actually, where he was in a girl's body. I'll try to remember it correctly. So in a little girl's body, and riding a bicycle, and then drowning every single time. Little girl on a bicycle, and then drowning. And then he wakes up, and this dream just kept going on and on. And we went looking for the roots of this dream, and what do you know, it was a past life. And we did look
very surprisingly
surprisingly not, but it was a past life indeed. The story was slightly different, though. What this dream actually was speaking about, in the past life of this gentleman, he was this little girl, and there was trauma for that girl. She had the trauma, something about drowning. She was rescued, though, but we did remove the trauma. We did work on the trigger point there. We did clear everything. We worked on it really, 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 really well, so that we don't ever have to come back to it. And then we came back to his current life, and the dream never came back. So as simple as that. So you can see how sometimes trauma in a past life can be triggering you somehow. And during the night, what happens? Or a conscious mind shuts down, or awareness, it shuts down. And then all kinds of contents can just pour out. And that's one of the things that can come up. Recurring dreams, for example, that's yet another example. There are lots of feelings and signs. And I'll give you a few common ones that I think most people will definitely recognize, and all of them, you know, definitely I can also give my own examples where I've experienced these feelings or sensations. So first of all, definitely will be seeing someone, meeting someone for the first time ever, and you just feel like you know them forever. You feel like you know them for, you know, all of your life, but you just met them. You just had, you know, first look at that person or first conversation ever. Have you ever had that happening to you?
Oh, so many times. So many times. I would feel less in dating, but with my candidates, I might be more relaxed to receive and recognize in my HR interviews, because in dating, I was always looking up for protecting myself, you know. So maybe that's why I didn't have so many experiences. But in friendships, and I will give you the most recent examples. You do know that I don't have my own children, but I have 3. I used to have 2, and I have 3 that I took under my wing. I had somebody call them my soul kids, you know. And the latest one, we are neighbors, and I was planning to ask her if she's willing to help me with my dogs, to walk them in the afternoon. And in the end, I did. We had no contact, you know, we just hello type of relationship. The first time we spent some time together, it was like a complete knockout, but a positive one. And she's not a very open person from emotional point of view. She's pretty shut down. And not only this, she did not like to be touched. And I'm a touchy person. When I like someone, I tend to touch that person. And I told her, okay, whenever you feel like it, my heart is open, so just come and ask for affection. And I think it was a couple of days. And now she cannot get enough of it. But it was like instant connection. The first time we spent more than hello together, she told me about personal stuff, and she was laughing that at the first time I talked to you, in 2 hours, he found out more about me than my therapist did in my first year of therapy. You know, so I do understand perfectly this. I know you forever emotion.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be just romantic relationships.
No.
It can be a random person, a teacher, and a friend of a friend, a colleague, anybody really. But that leads to, you know, knowing that you definitely have some knowing of that person from your previous life, 100%, because you recognize that the soul recognizes the other soul, almost as if, and it's an inkling, it's a feeling. You can't really point your finger at what that is exactly, but it's there. That's definitely one that I think most people really have experienced, if not even all of them, you know. Another, yes, it is. And here's another one. Proofs of past life. Well, I can't really say proofs really, but definitely an inkling that might be coming from past life. It's an unexplainable almost attraction or hate towards a specific thing or a subject or whatever it is. For example, it can be anything to do with food, specific food, or career even, or language, or a country, or a person, and so on. So just to give again an example, recently I had a lady, we worked together on different stuff, but what came up was that she just cannot stand anything Indian. The food, the looks, the country, the music, nothing. And it turned out she actually had a lot of difficult lives in India, a lot of difficult past lives. And it kind of had created this almost, you know, repulsive feeling towards that place. Didn't want to hear anything about it, you know. Or vice versa, for example, somebody might be really attracted to arts, any type of arts, although they're an accountant maybe. You know, high chance that in the past life they were a creative person, not necessarily maybe an artist, but there was something to do, you know, with being a creative. So these type of things as well, when you kind of can't explain that you really feel attracted towards something or someone out of nowhere, or rather the opposite, you feel repulsed by something just without any specific reason. So that's another sort of a sign of a past life, or, you know, giving at least some clues of what you've been doing in your past life. And speaking of also things that we are good at, by the way, our talents quite often will be related to past lives. Same about the artist, for example, or somebody is really insanely good with numbers, you know, again, that might be something to do with the past life, because it's almost as if most often the soul continues what it's good at. It continues its own journey into exploring some kind of career path or some kind of hobby, or, you know, some kind of doing of something. And, you know, it's a journey. And the more you do it, the more experiences you gather in that doing. Well, to speak more like directly, let's say it's an artist, right? The more arts they do or create, let's say they paint and they paint beautifully, but that doesn't go anywhere. It's like learning to ride a bike, right? So you'll always know how to ride that bike. So that's another thing, things that we are good at, talents. Illnesses, by the way. Go on.
One thing that popped my mind, it was planned the kind of the question, but later on in the interview, but I feel like this is a good moment to ask.
Yeah.
How is the soul born? You know, because it will be actually two questions that are connected. So how is the soul born, and why does the soul decide to reincarnate? Why doesn't, you know, just okay, I lived and that's it, I go into the light. You know, most of the film movies about a person dying is that I go into the light and then I never come back. You know, lots of movies are having this image. So how is the soul born? We know how the body is, not quite in details, but how about the soul?
Yes.
How about the energy? You know, where does it come from?
It's a good question, which I can answer only based on what I have gathered throughout my sessions, because again, you know, all kinds of information is out there. We take what resonates kind of, but then I kind of prefer though to base my knowledge of what I've experienced through the sessions, and even myself personally as well when I'm meditating, for example. And what's interesting, the clients that have been led in my sessions quite further down in the history, let's put it that way, the information always matches. It's always the same. That leads me to think that there is some kind of truth to it. So everything is energy. Plus, we are dealing with the concept of universal consciousness. Think of things from the physics perspective. We have this rule. Let me remember the rule, have it called correctly. We have the law of conservation of energy. I hope those who are into physics are not gonna, you know, disagree with me, but there is this law of conservation of energy. It states that, you know, that the total amount of energy remains constant. It doesn't get smaller or bigger. It's always there, and that energy can be transformed from one form to another.
Nothing is lost,
Nothing
but everything transforms.
Exactly, and it cannot be destroyed, really. It's just there, but it changes shapes. So we change shapes and forms, but the essence of us doesn't really disappear anymore, does it? Think of it as water, right? What happens with water? You have a glass of water, you put it in the freezer, it becomes a piece of ice. You take it out of the freezer, put it in the sun, what happens? It evaporates, goes and, makes fluffy clouds, and then it just rains, and the process goes on and on and on. It doesn't disappear anymore. And same is with energy. And it's interesting how in the sessions, also quite by accident, to be honest with you, it was very much needed type of experience for the clients. They had to go as far as being just some kind of a blob of energy, just some kind of a form of energy. And then we looked into that energy. What is that? You're not human. You're not any particular being or shape, but you're a blob of consciousness. It's an energy. What are you then? That was before Earth, before anything else, And they start telling me things, what? I'm quite dark. I'm quite dense. I'm quite this. I'm quite that. And I ask them, where do you come from? And then they tell me, I just changed. It was the evolution of the soul or the consciousness. I just changed into this form from something else, and you just keep changing. And it's an evolution. It's evolution also in terms of energy, in terms of soul. So souls come basically from one place, from this universal consciousness. That by itself is a huge piece of energy, isn't it?
I also remember that we had a session when I told you it was also by surprise.
Yes, indeed.
I came into
as well.
The moment I was born. Yeah, I still remember it.
Yes. Now that you mentioned, definitely. So sometimes, we do go back, and it's quite interesting to be in that state. And I can sense also each client when they go there, and the energy is like, what are they tasting there? And it's quite different. It's very quiet. It's very stable, even peaceful. Yes, and then there are nuances, of course, for each person, but. So we may as well have been everything, just blobs of energies to different animals, even stones and other things. But it's part of the process, part of the soul evolution, as simple as. And being in the human form really is kind of one of the last steps, at least, if we talk now, these days, this is, where your consciousness is very highly developed. Almost like an IA, you're learning constantly something new. That's
Good
outside
analogy.
of the mind, right? So there you go.
I remember from Conversations with God, the book, and God was saying, I had to send you on earth so that as part of me, so that I can experience more, because me as just one entity, I cannot have so many life experiences as allowing to be born 8 billion people, because through those 8 billion people plus the animals and other beings that are on earth, I can also have enrich my own experience. So it's kind of like God is evolving through us, and it's kind of sustained by the Bible, who says that God created us by from him, like looking. I don't know how to translate it in English.
I caught your idea. But I also don't know the term, to be honest, in English. But according to how he was, or she, or
something like that.
Yes. By the way, that's a great book. If anybody hasn't read it yet or has no clue what that is, I'm not talking about Bible, I'm talking about Conversations with God. Has nothing to do with religion, with God. It's just purely beautiful. And you know what I used to do with that book? I also have it at home. When you have a tough day and you're just looking for answers and they're just not coming, and you feel like, it's just right here, but you just can't can't get out of your head. You take that book and you flip pages. Don't think much about it. Just flip it open somewhere and go with your finger and read it. Have a look what you're reading there. And that might actually resonate quite a lot with your problem.
Oh, I remember that as a guidance. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, there you go. That book works for this perfectly. Somehow for me personally has never failed me, to be honest with you. You know, tough day, just open the book, go with your finger here and read it. And it's on spot always.
No, remember, thank you for the tip.
Sure. I do that quite a lot with other books as well, but this particular one really, really recommend. This is not an advertisement or anything of sorts. It's just purely conversations by God. I think it's the author is Neil Walsh.
Yes, good
Yes,
memory.
I guess they're right.
Yeah, I will also provide the name of the book and the author.
Yeah.
In the interview description when I will publish it. So
yeah,
we are on an event dedicated to dating and couples, romantic couples. That's the focus. So now that we know about past lives and a little bit about the soul and the energy, how do the past lives influence the way we choose our partners in this life? Why? Well, it's enough. How do the past lives influence our romantic life in this life?
Good question. There are quite several reasons, to be honest with you. Well, number one, this is more when we speak about couples. A little thing called unfinished business. And that can be a good and or a bad thing. Unfinished business sounds, you know, quite a bit like somebody is coming after you and going to do bad things to you, which can be the case as well, metaphorically speaking. But in reality, yes. Some couples, let's say, if they have provided a lesson for one another, they have agreed to, you know, play out a certain, let's say, scenario where they're supposed to learn each of the parties something individually, although within that couple, and they haven't done that per se, they haven't done that just yet. They may agree to come back, both incarnate again, meet again, and then finish where they left off, meaning they'll again go back into that same story. They will, you know, create the same circumstances, the same feelings there, the same ooh and ha and everything, and then you're supposed to learn something from that. And the question is, do you or do you not? So unfinished business. A good side of that might be, though, which I do see quite a lot as well. Let's say in a past life, a couple, both persons really, really truthfully love each other that much they can't be apart. They will incarnate to support one another.
Oh, this is so romantic.
This is.
You just melted me away.
Really?
Yes.
I really truthfully.
I am a fool for this kind of stories.
Oh, me too. Well, when I stumble across, you know, that happening for someone, it's just it is emotional in a good way, and it's beautiful, and it just gives you this almost hope for those that don't have that just yet, perhaps. You know, it doesn't have to happen, you know, right at the beginning of your life. It can be that you meet that person quite later, because you do have stuff to deal with until you are able to actually enjoy what the other person is able to bring to you. You may, you know, as I said, grow old and just die together happily, you know. So it doesn't have to also happen right away. But that also falls within the category of, let's say, unfinished business. Applies to siblings, by the way, often as well. Those siblings that are, you know, super close to one another, or best friends, also quite similar. Less about romance, perhaps, but also souls that really, really, really want to stick together. They want to help one another, want to support one another. This is where we get you know, those perfect best friends or super close siblings, for example. That's more, yeah, between two souls. And then we can speak about individual level. when it comes to, partners in the past life. Let's say you have an unfinished business with yourself. I call them the life lessons or the soul lessons, the lessons that we'll learn basically on a deep, deep level. And you have not managed to really close that lesson in regards to your relationships, perhaps.
Can you give a specific example? Because I think it would be very helpful for people to follow. Unfinished business, like in a good way and a bad way, we all understand. But how about life lessons? Can you provide an example or maybe something from your cases, like a storyline?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, what are the lessons? They come tied with the soul purpose. We do incarnate here on earth with many different reasons, with many different purposes, let's say. And one of those purposes is to learn certain lessons through certain experiences. And when we look at a past life, for example, I really, really do have quite many stories that are really similar where, it was different times back then, usually. It's something to do with women being kind of forced into a relationship. For example, marriage that is ordered by the parents, like, made an agreement type of form of a marriage or so, and the woman feels just imprisoned. And the man, however, again, they feel like they don't love the woman. And they start doing horrible things to each other, for example. The man starts cheating on his wife because he doesn't love his wife. It's not a marriage by love, but marriage by, I can't remember the right word for it, but it's an agreement of a marriage, between families. Arranged marriage. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, and the woman, again, she starts developing this huge resentment towards that man. And there might have been a lesson to perhaps learn. This is just an example, but has come quite a lot up within the sessions, to learn actually how to accept another person, or to learn to give freedom without resentment, let the person be, or quite often also how to learn to love unconditionally without any conditions. There are different cases. And then what happens? There's some kind of dynamic going on within that couple there. And then when you reincarnate, and you may replay the same scenario, although the circumstances are going to be different. It's 21st century, and rarely we see arranged marriage going on these days, right? So you might actually, fall in love and get married with someone, and everything is beautiful, and, flowers and butterflies and unicorns flying around. And then at some point, the reality hits. And what actually hits in is that old story. And what happens? You develop the same feelings. The woman starts feeling imprisoned. The man starts feeling like they're not attracted to that woman anymore. They start going somewhere sideways. She starts developing more and more and more resentment towards that man. This is just one of many examples. So we kind of replay these scenarios in couples, and it's not necessarily this always going to be the same couple, the same people. Sometimes it's going to be, sometimes not. Sometimes, the woman will be in the man's position and vice versa. Sometimes it will be literally copy paste. So that's when you speak about couples on an individual level. Again, there are many interesting stories. One that comes to mind right now, I don't remember the ages though, like the actual year we looked at. But also the woman was basically married off to rather a wealthy man, wealthy family, and just for sole purpose of bringing him children. And unfortunately, she had miscarriage after miscarriage after another and another. And at the end of the day, she killed herself in that past life. Because it's either she does it or she will be thrown away, almost, you know, in simple words speaking. She will be sent away somewhere because she is of no use to that family, of no use to that man who is expecting children. And that woman, she actually got stuck from that past life with a lot of self-worth issues because of that. Because if you imagine a man is just expecting you to bring children and that's all you are to him, then you start developing all kinds of different patterns and programs and beliefs, limiting beliefs. And then when she had incarnated and now she's all grown up, of course, and she's struggling with relationship, her self-worth is very low. So that's her lesson, to recognize her self-worth, to actually see herself that she is way more than, you know, just bringing children. In this case, it would be probably something else. She's way more than, let's say, you know, her job, or she's way more than just her looks. She's way more. She needs to feel that internally. We're talking about inner states here, and this is, you know, what we do in these sessions. We find the roots, we find the trauma or the program or the pattern, we deal with that. But then as a result, we build a new state. At the end of the session, we build a new state. What is it that you are going to be like from here on out? Because when you have a different state within you, you naturally think differently, your actions change, and the outcome that you see in your life changes as well, doesn't it? And that happens quite automatically because of your state. So when your state says, I'm worthy, I'm valuable as a person, not as a flesh, not as you know, something else, as a person, as me, everything changes. And you start attracting things. You start magnetizing things to that state. You start magnetizing experiences, people, men, relationships, even that actually value you for who you are, because that's the state inside there, right? So it means that the lesson is learned. If it's not learned, we continue learning that lesson over and over and over again in all the possible ways. And these lessons will be something very individual for each person. So basically, have a look at what are you struggling these days in your life? What is your struggle? What are you thinking about? How are you acting? How are you feeling inside? Question yourself. And that's how you can come to realize what the lesson is. If you're dealing with it, it's time also for you to overcome it, because you can.
I remember that this was what the beginning of me losing the role of the savior. I remember that I was wondering a lot why this ex-partner that I had was so mean and so angry. This was the first session that we had. Yeah. Why is he so angry? Because I was not such a bad person. And we realized that we went back. He had some life soul lessons to learn, and I kept on saving him and protecting him. So that meant that next time he was reincarnating, he had to redo the whole path that was pretty painful in order to learn the lesson. And I was never giving up. I remember that I was saving him all the time. Poor guy. Yeah. And since then, what's happened, because a lot of people are wondering, what does therapy or guidance or whatever is helping you with? Well, what happened is that starting with that moment when I realized how all this program of me saving people with my own sacrifices was is doing not only to me, but to them, that it's an abusive role in essence. It does not allow people to develop new skills to survive. You know, it's like feeding them all the time and not teaching them how to make the food, you know. There is this Bible example of Jesus teaching people to fish, how to fish, and not just providing the fish, something like that.
Yeah.
And what changed in my life, in day-to-day life? There were some painful breakups in my friendships, but all of them started with me saving those people. And when I withdrew from this position, we had conflict and the relationship ended. Some are in renegotiating, like meaning to start again the friendship, but completely different, not with Andrea saving them and being the mother that they never asked for, in essence. Some ended completely. It also changed the pattern that the way I did the interviews in my work, because I'm more objective, and they started to give me energy, not just consume my energy. And the connections became completely, I cannot compare it. I just become a much better professional, because the connection that I am establishing with my candidates is literally from soul to soul, not from saving them, not from judging them or evaluating them, but we just relate and connect, and we decide together if there is a fit or not. I'm not saving animals anymore, but I'm donating, which was very much welcome, because I already have 2 dogs and a cat that were supposed to be just help, and they become my personal pet, and it's enough. So a lot of things changed, but mostly the way I relate with people, I'm really connecting now. I'm really, really connecting. And I was telling Elina before this interview that the interviews that I did for the whole event were more a blessing for me than for the people that will be listening after I post them on YouTube and social media, because they were my personal blessing. And the connections, I am a much richer person, soul-wise and energy-wise, after this event. So it was mostly for me, when I thought about doing it, was for the people who will listen the interviews and what they can learn from it. But actually, I am the rich one. No, it's almost done when we have this interview, organizing it and the interviews. And you cannot do that unless you are clear. When we are playing a role, no matter if it's a victim or savior or whatever, it's like wearing a mask. And you cannot embrace a person with so many clothes on. If you have very many clothes, which are the roles and the masks, you cannot actually connect, because you cannot feel the skin. That's why spending time with your partner in bed, skin to skin, no clothes, after sex, let's put it away, it's so intimate, because you can actually feel the person, you can feel the skin, you can hear the breath, you can feel the breath on your shoulders or whatever. You can actually see the eyes without any glasses. So it's an amazing intimacy. The same is with when you are connecting soul to soul with somebody. And sometimes part of these roles that are not useful anymore are coming from past lives, and you just can't clear them out, and everything changes. You are literally happier, and it's hard to explain. It's like removing a tumor or a pimple, that was not helping you with anything, and then you are happier because you are healthier. I have a saying: if the soul cannot be actually seen, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I always imagine the soul as a physical body when I'm talking with someone, so that I'm more gentle, which I was not in my past. I'm more gentle when I'm touching it, because indeed I cannot see the wound, but when I'm accidentally touching an emotional wound, I know how to step back before hurting more. It's an amazing process, and this is how connections are made, because we become gentle. I stole your interview.
No, that's very true. And I agree about the layers, on many layers. actually on many levels. I always say it's like, you know, when you have all of these layers of clothes on, when it's 40, 50 degrees Celsius outside, you're hot, you're bothered, you're uncomfortable, you're sweating, and all you can think about is just, you know, how you can get them off. You're occupied, your mind is occupied, you don't see anything outside, you know, outside of just those thoughts that I'm hot. Or the same with like when we have 1,000 glasses on, you know, goggles. Same thing. And when we start removing layer by layer, or the glasses, we just take them off, and suddenly we can see, where we can suddenly breathe for the first time, and then we can actually see what else is around us, you know. And it's interesting how you said, you know, after working through all of the past masks and the trauma and, you know, all of those layers, it's just like removing a tumor almost. And you know what's interesting, I need to mention this, it just came to my mind too. After dealing with the past relationship, whether it's a past life or this life, or, you know, whatever the case, and especially when it's a past life kind of a case, when we deal with these lessons, these challenges with that other person, usually they disappear from our lives. And it's interesting that whilst we're dealing with that whole mess, with that whole nightmare there, although it's so, you know, intriguing and we just can't get out of it, it's like a drug almost when we are, you know, with that person. We go through, you know, all kinds of stuff, and we can't imagine our lives without them, but we're suffering. Once that suffering ends, once we have learned what we have to learn, once we close that cycle, usually both people, they do choose to go their separate ways. And when you ask them, you know, let's say years later, you know, would you do anything different? Would you still want to maybe go back to that person you were so tight before, you know? They go like, no, I can breathe now. I don't want to think about them, don't want to hear anything, you know? It's like you see afterwards, you just see clearly, you can focus.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that as well.
Thank you. It's a discussion. So you mentioned that we are attracted to a certain type of partners because we have unfinished business. Either we loved each other so much in past lives that we want to love again, and in a physical form again. We let them. These are the happy stories, you know. We just keep them aside as a prize, you know, as a source of hope. But you also mentioned that we have some unfinished business, not the positive one, with some souls, and we decide, for those who are wondering, when the souls are leaving the bodies, they do keep the consciousness. You can imagine it as the mind, so they are able to communicate. And the souls always have the positive intention to help each other grow and become more wise, even though while being incarnated, it seems painful. But I believe anybody who is listening to this interview can relate with the situation when somebody was really, really mean, and years after ending that relationship, no matter if it was a friendship or romantic relationship or a boss, they do thank God I met Andrea, who was an ass with me, because I learned not to trust from the first 5 minutes, or I learned not to borrow money to people that I don't know very well, or I learned to fight back. I learned to have boundaries. You learned a lesson, and many times we go back years. Thank God that I met that awful person, because I learned very good life lessons from that relationship. I don't want to have that relationship again, but I did learn lots of lessons from this. So we have two souls who left the body, and they're negotiating a new life. Let's meet again. I will be the S this time, so you can have the lessons, you know. We did that, the two of us, during our sessions, rewriting the contract, because with my ex-partner, it seemed that we had some not so good stuff since the beginning of our lives, or of our journey as souls. So it was really old, and we wanted to end because we were not nice to each other somehow. What can you tell me about rewriting a soul contract? What is a soul contract? For people who are not familiar with the information, I've read a lot, so this is not for me, but also for me. I'm being arrogant.
Nothing wrong with that, though.
What is a soul contract, and can it be changed? You know, like labor contract with an additional annex that is changing the initial agreement, you know, can it be changed for a higher salary, you know, and better work conditions?
I love that question. I generally love the topic of soul contract, soulmate. It comes hand in hand. I'll explain in a second. And death itself, actually.
Well, I will interrupt
such
just
a
1 minute.
taboo.
Since you mentioned soulmates, maybe you can mention twin
I'm
flames,
bringing.
because there is a lot of literature lately, and not so much altogether connected. So bring it on, please.
On the soulmates.
Soulmates and twin flames.
Twin flames. Okay. Yes, sure.
Because it's also a soul contract there.
It is. All cases are. So let's start from the very basics. We have heard this term soulmates everywhere, you know, like, oh my God, my one and only true soulmate, when am I going to meet him or her? Or, you know, we just dream and long for that one soulmate. Wrong. There is not one soulmate. There are many, and you already have them around you. Start with your family, your mom, your dad, you know, whatever the case, your grandparents, your caretakers. Again, depends on what your situation is. Those that are close, your siblings, those people that are near you, the closest ones, also the ones that bring you the horrible experiences. Also, those are your soulmates. Then when we speak about relationships, romantic relationships in particular, soulmates, almost 100% that, you know, those relationships that, you know, count, or even if they're short term, and the more fiery they are, the closer the soulmate is actually to you. And soulmates are basically, it's your soul family here on earth, in the human body that I call the avatar, right? It's an avatar. We have many of those walking around us all the time. We're actually souls in the body. Here on earth, we have our family. We have our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, maybe somehow godparents, siblings, etc., cousins, and so on. That's our human family. But we have the same thing actually going on, you know, behind the scenes, let's say. Actually, there is a thing that is called soul family, soul cluster, you call it as you will, you know, soul group. These are the closest souls to you. The closer the soul is, the bigger role they usually take on. And that's where we sign contracts with them. When it comes to twin flames, it's a bit difficult to comment for me, because the information that I have gathered really differs. Though if I speak purely from the sessions, twin flames, it's very, very, very rare thing, and that would usually be more in line with, let's say, twins incarnating both together. You know, I know that there is this notion of twin flames going around quite a lot, that, you know, it is just these two really close souls, and you know, what they feel, I feel. Perhaps it could be maybe classified as a very close soulmate to you. Both souls are really close, so they feel one another more than they feel the other souls around. But the notion that the soul is almost like split and put in two bodies, from data that I have, I would rather have to disagree with that. What do you think?
I resonated very well But now, 3 years later, I thought that my partner is my twin. I do believe in this part. I do believe that there are rare people who are split in two, because the journey of becoming wise, it's shorter this way. At least in my perspective, you are actually collecting double wise load in one lifetime. So I do believe that it's part of it. I feel it like a God gift for the whole humanity, because it is said that, for those who are wondering, twin flame means that one soul is split in two, and it is incarnating in the same life, but in two different bodies. And the story says that twin flames meet, and in the beginning, when they meet, if they are not healed, if they are not wise, if they have trauma that is unresolved and limited beliefs, and especially if their self-love is very low, the relationship will be a complete disaster. They will hurt each other a lot. In order to bring them to the point of, this is not working, I need to change something in my life so I can have a better life. And every time, no matter what we want to change in our life, there is only one answer: self-love, that calls upon everything else, self-respect, self-caring. But in the end, no matter if we want to earn more money and have a better body or better relationship, self-love is the only answer that is actually driving the actions and the change. So twin flames meet and they hurt each other like crazy. They're being completely ass on each other. But on the other hand, they also love each other a lot. And it is, the storyline is that if they manage to heal and they get into a union, their light, when they will become a couple that is actually working in a happy relationship, usually they become healers, and their light is like multiplied. So it's not 1 + 1 that makes 2, but it's 1 + 1 makes infinite. Usually is the kind of couple that becomes very involved in changing the society and teaching and healing and making major changes in the society. So it's not the group of friends or the family, but they have a huge impact that stays even if their body dies, after their body dies. So this would be the twin flame. Connected with twin flame, it's also a relationship that usually people have before meeting their twin flame, that is called the karmic. The karmic is just a bad relationship. It's a person that is also coming from the soul family that is treating you usually really, really bad, really bad, so that you can become wise before meeting your twin flame, so that you are prepared. If your relationship with your twin flame is too bad, like too hurtful, you will not get into union in that life. You know, God is always loving us. So if he notices that you're being stupid and you're being stupid and you really don't learn the lessons, no matter how much I'm trying to help you, then I will allow you to have some soulmate in this life and have some peace in the romantic life, and you will meet each other in the next life, maybe wiser. So usually you have a karmic that is treating you really, really bad, so you can learn some life lessons, again, with the same focus, self-love. This relationship was so bad, that I need to change something so that this will never happen in my life again. Now, there is a complete hysteria on global level regarding twin flames. Everybody believes they are in twin flames, mostly because it is surrounded by divinity concept. It is said that twin flames are something like some favorite souls, God says, you know, you are my favorite and you are my favorite. You are such a nice soul. So I will send you to bring some more light in the world and help those human beings not kill each other all the time and treating them each other so bad. So you go there. I trust you. I trust you more than other souls. They are too young, you know, to put it this way. Everybody wants to be God's favorite. So there are hundreds, thousands of people who are just in toxic relationship with narcissistic people and sociopath, people who are so hurt that are not able to love, who want to believe, choose to believe that they are in a twin flame relationship just because it sounds romantic and in order to justify the suffering that they are feeling without doing the work to heal and really start the journey to love themselves. Now, my own perspective on this one is that my ex-partner was a karmic one, because indeed the relationship was so bad, we treated each other so bad that at least myself, I don't know about him because we are not in contact, neither that I want to, but it did push me to self-loving path. And big time. The changes that I did in the past 2 years in my life are tremendous. Like, I'm a completely different person. If this will lead me to my twin flame, maybe. But I did experience last year a relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a twin flame or not. It was so intense and so nice. But for me, it was a relationship that taught me what real love means. What does it mean when the love is free? Love is free doesn't mean that we fuck around with other people. It means that we enjoy the other person just being as he is, as she is, with pleasure, without having any need to change them. And we do know that the moment we start to ask for changes, the relationship is actually not working. So instead of asking and pushing the person and threatening the person to change, we let them go and allow them to be happier with somebody else because we love them that much. We love them so much that instead of pressing them to become, I don't know, calmer or more gentle or richer or more beautiful or whatever we are pressing to change, we realize we cannot accept them as they are. We express our needs. If they decide to change because it makes them good, it's a decision that, first of all, is good for them, then it's perfect. If they do not, we let them go with a free soul. I believe that guy could be a twin flame. I don't know if it is a twin flame. He taught me in 3 months about love and about a healthy relationship that all the other guys and all the other classes and all the other hours of therapy did not teach me. Because love cannot be taught. It needs to be felt and lived. So to conclude about how I feel the twin flame, I don't think that twin flames are actually hurting each other. If this is actually happening, if there are two souls split and embodied in two different physical bodies, I don't think they are hurting each other. And if they start doing that, they stop immediately before hurting them deep, because it's like taking the knife and stabbing yourself everywhere.
Exactly.
You cannot do that unless you have a really bad mental problem. And this is very rare. So there are not so many crazy people in the world as it is sad. So if you are wondering if you are in a twin flame journey or not, you have two very easy to read signs. First of all, in the relationship that you are both very concerned not to hurt each other. You prefer to split up than to hurt each other, because hurting him, hurting her really hurts you, that's one sign. Usually they are gentle people who literally looks into your eyes and says, I am hurting you. I cannot stand hurting you, so I need to leave because I am not able at this point to make you happy, or at least not hurt you. That's one sign. And the other sign, if this relationship is actually pushing you gently towards self-love. If you are in this kind of relationship, and also, with wishes and dreams of making a very positive impact on society, then this is how I would define a twin relationship. And it's very rare. You cannot have thousands and thousands of people country-based, maybe on worldwide, yes, but country-based. You cannot have thousands of people, twin flames, planning to change the society, because we would be fighting each other, to do the change. So this is not possible. That's why we don't have so many Dalai Lama, and other people who actually, or Nelson Mandela and Ioana Dark, and people who actually, that's why we don't have so many Jesus, people who actually change the society. I'm not saying that they were twin flames. I'm talking about the impact that this couple is supposed to have on society. So in short, yes, I do believe that most of the relationships that are reported as twin flames are actually very abusive relationship with people who are so much in their victim role, they cannot see that, they cannot take the veil out of their eyes. It's sad to read the stories. Those who have been through hell, like I have been, we are always commenting on, I'm part of many groups, and we are always commenting. Twin flames relationship don't hurt. You are just in a toxic relationship, refusing to love yourself.
True.
Yeah.
Twin flames are extremely rare. And I have to agree 100% to what you said, especially when it comes to the dysfunctional couples where, one is hurting the other to the point where it's almost like you're brainwashed.
Yes.
And this twin flame, stamp almost, on the relationship is just yet another excuse. Because when you think that you don't have the power to change things, you think that you can't do anything about it because we are twin flames, especially because, well, you're giving away responsibility, actually, of living your own life. You're giving away free will, freedom to choose, and so many more. So I've never been a big fan, of classifying the things, twin flame or karmic or whatever it is. I usually put all these souls in one basket. Is it is it a soulmate or is it not? Is it from your soul family? It can be closer, it can be further one. It doesn't matter, because now I'm going into soul contracts, because each and every single one of them have signed a contract. Whether that's a twin flame, whether that's a karmic relationship, whether that's, a supportive relationship, whether it's somebody completely different. Every single one of those souls has signed a contract with you, and vice versa. When we speak about soul contracts, you can literally think that it's almost as a verbal agreement with an energetic stamp on it. It's literally what it is. It's a soul contract. It's a contract between two souls. How it looks like, though, it's slightly different. Here we're talking about energy. I'm not going to probably go too deep into, how these bonds visually or energetically look like, but it is a contract, because each soul by default has free will, same like us humans, because we are souls. And I really like this saying, and just have to throw it in there. Wise man once said, and I need to look up what the original author was of this saying. You're not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. So let's start with that. We have entered here on earth with a lot of baggage. We have our avatar, we have our lessons that we are ready to take on from the past lives into the new incarnation. We have chosen our parents also. We have agreed to a lot of stuff for ourselves. We have basically packed these circumstances for ourselves in order to have something to start with, And secondly, what we do before we incarnate, we sign contracts with other souls, because we can't do it alone. We can't support ourselves just by being alone. Well, we can, but there's sometimes this time where we do need this extra support. So we do have these, rather pleasant soulmates that, again, best friends, siblings, parents, or our loved ones as romantic partners. They come in to support us. And we sign contracts also with those that will do really, really, really bad things to us throughout our lifetime. And some of them can step in quite early in our life, and some can step only later. And again, this time usually can be more or less agreed. Even it's kind of scheduled, kind of planned a little bit, like we can just see what comes up when it comes up, kind of, when we're speaking about these soul contracts. Soul contracts are a different nature. It's almost as if you can just paint a picture in your mind, almost like you're watching a movie. Two souls coming together, and the one says, so what if I do this to you? Because then, I can provide you this lesson, then it will hurt, and you can learn from that. And the other one goes like, no, maybe if you do it that way better, let's do that maybe better. And the first one goes, yeah, that might work, So we kind of, on a soul level, we plan out these circumstances. It's almost like, I will do this to you, and then you will do that to me, and then let's see what happens. And we leave it open. So the soul contract is basically that these two souls will come together to fulfill towards one another whatever it is they need to fulfill. Sometimes it's a mutual type of thing. Sometimes, both souls, they kind of do something to one another. More rarely, it's one soul doing something to the other, because, contract is mutually beneficial. It's something that you both will learn. So, anybody that you see around you, all the people that are close to you, all the people that you treasure, and all the people that you hate, and you have had horrible experiences,
those parents that you are blaming.
Yes,
you chose
and
them.
especially the parents, and especially those experiences that hurt like hell. Also contracts. Your soul, your higher self, your higher, being, call it as you will, you have agreed beforehand to bring that experience to yourself, because you cannot make that experience, for yourself, by yourself. You need someone else to play it out for you, so that you can be in that situation, so that you can, become angry, or develop a new program perhaps, or a new pattern that you will need to unlearn. And that is the part of the process. That is part of why we are here. And this is not just about the bad experiences. There might be, cases, for example, somebody coming and rescuing you from a difficult situation. Also, that is a soul contract. There can be somebody, coming and helping you out, and then never showing their face again to you. And also that can be a soul contract, and not can be, but it definitely is usually. So those people that we do have around us, soul contracts, all of them. And answering the question whether you can break a soul contract, 100% you can. But there are, let's call it the, where we have the small letters at the very end of a contract that most people don't read. Let's call it the small script. We can break it, but the easiest and fastest way to break it, to, you know, rewrite the contract or to break it, is to learn the lesson, really. It's really the fastest way out, because you're supposed to do it anyway. And the faster you open your eyes towards what the hell is happening here, where have I gotten myself into right in this, you know, point of my life? Like, why am I dealing with that person? Always ask, question yourself. What's the reason there? Why did I plan that for myself? And they agreed to it. Meaning that probably I'm doing something bad to them as well, but that's not the point. Why did I agree for this experience to happen to myself? Stop questioning things. If you, let's say, have a bad date and it just really hit you hard, you know, somehow you go really down about it, question, why did I attract that experience there for myself, you know? Because I need to learn something from it. What is it that I can take away from it? Or maybe there's something that I need to see that I really, really like. Or maybe there's something I need to, you know, see that I really, really will never, ever experience again. I just refuse. That's not for me. Thank you. Cancel and goodbye, you know? So learn lessons. If it's something bigger, again, question. Go intuitively looking for answers for you. So we'll always feel the truth. That is the point. And especially when you come to when we speak about soul contracts, the fastest way out is to learn the lesson. Realize what is it that you know you're learning right here and now. It may hit you a bit later, and that's okay. It may hit you right away once you start moving the information field, as they always say. So, because if you don't ask, you will never get the answer. You need to ask questions to yourself, right? And hear the answers coming up. Another way to really break a soul contract is literally breaking the soul contract, but then you will need to have that other person with you, that other soul working with you, because it has to be a mutual agreement.
Okay. How can you do that?
Well, usually through deep hypnotic sessions, we do go and check and look at those contracts. But what I'll tell you, it's very rare where the soul wants to break the contract before learning the full experience. It's almost as if you go all like angry about this happening and you want to break the contract. And then when you look at it, you know, when we examine all the details and we work together with that other soul and we look at things, you know what, there may be just lessons that I need to learn first. And then the contract is going to be done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we can break, but it happens rarely, because it's almost as if you need to convince your own soul plus the other person's soul who's also willing to learn their lessons throughout these experiences in this incarnation. They don't want to drag it into the next one, maybe, or drag it for a later day. They're right there, you know, having that experience. You might as well just learn the lesson and move on. You're not supposed to stay in the unpleasant states or, you know, have these unpleasant experiences forever. They kind of hit us like bricks sometimes, but we take it, we understand it, we change some certain things that we need to change, and we move happily on. And usually that's when the contract is also done with.
From all the techniques of learning the lessons, my personal perspective on the best way to do that, how to learn the life lessons from a shitty situations, because we go through shitty situation. We have bad families with parents who are neglecting us and criticizing and not showing their love, and siblings who are can also be very abusive, so on and so forth. So there is no point in denying those experiences, but what does it mean learning the lesson? From all the techniques that I applied, and there are plenty, because I'm also a very curious and open person, but somehow the best results, at least in my case, were two questions. When somebody is treating me shittily, doesn't matter where, it's a romantic partner or a friend, or even my kids, the ones that, or even my dogs, any other being that is pissing me off or hurting me somehow, I have two questions that I'm asking. How do I also behave the same? So if you have somebody yelling at you, you ask yourself, where do I yell? To whom do I yell? Where do I take advantage of being in a power position? So I'm yelling. If you are offended, the same question. That's one question. When you go outside, where do I do outside of myself and do the same? Cheating. It's one of the questions that most of the people refuse to ask. How am I cheating? My lady, my guy, every time you compare your romantic partner with another potential romantic partner, you are cheating. Every time you develop an emotional relationship with somebody else, you are cheating. You don't have to go physical for this. Every time you are sitting next by your romantic partner and have romantic thoughts about somebody else, you are cheating. And there is something that I really liked that I've seen on TikTok. If you feel like hiding, then you are cheating. And so many of us are cheating a lot. At least be honest about it. You don't have to go to your partner, I'm cheating you 20 times per day by comparing you with other people. You don't have to do that. You just have to be honest with yourself, because when you will realize that you are also a cheater, even though not on a high level way, it doesn't matter the scale, then it's easier not to judge others and ask for changes. That's one side. How do I behave the same in the relationship with other beings? That's first question. And the second question that is even more effective and important. How am I behaving with myself in the same way that other people are behaving towards me? And I'll give you a couple of examples. Again, cheating. It's one of the fears that many of us have regarding our romantic partner. Many of us are not polyamorous and not in open relationships. So we do fear about cheating, about our partner taking what we have in another house, to another person. Breaking the trust, to put it this way. And I wondered a lot. It took me months to answer the question, because my ex-partner, and it was not the only one, he was the worst. But there have been years of unfaithful partners that I was having. I realized that, yes, indeed, it was a mirror. I was cheating. Most of the time, emotional cheating, but I was cheating. That was one thing. And the other thing, I was lying to myself, because cheating is lying. That's the first thing that a person who cheats is doing, is lying. And I was lying to myself. I was refusing to see the reality, so on and so forth. And that was one of the painful lessons that I learned, but it pushed me towards loving myself, because when I stopped doing that, I also started to do the changes, by refusing partners that had red flags from the first date. I was not going to the same date. I stopped being afraid being a single lady. I stopped listening to people telling me, you have so high standards that you will end up alone. I prefer to be alone. I'm happy alone than being in a relationship that is hurting me. That's self-love. Refusing toxic relationships in your life, it's self-love. And I have another example. I have a friend that I love dearly, and she is complaining for a couple of years of chaotic workplaces. So she is changing jobs, looking for peace, and she ends up in a peaceful company in a chaotic project. And then she asks to be changed to another project, and so on and so forth. Surprisingly, she's one of the most organized person that I know. She knows by minutes, by hours, whatever she will be doing, not only for today, but for a couple of weeks ahead. So she's very, very organized. And I was asking myself, where are you chaotic? Where you have a part in a relationship with yourself you with you where you are chaotic. And when we talked about it, we realized that her eating habits were completely chaotical. And being chaotic with your eating habits is a matter of self-abuse, because your body needs routine, your body needs good food. This is self-love. When you have a routine of what you eat, when you eat, how much do you eat, it's self-love. And she was not loving her body, but she was abusing her body by eating whenever she was remembering it, not paying attention to what she was eating, so on and so forth. That was the chaos. And the universe, God, whatever you call it, was showing her, you are not loving yourself. I don't know if she changed the habit, but I can tell you that she's complaining less in the last couple of weeks of living in a chaotic, professional environment. It's that easy. You will listen to lots of influencers and therapists that I highly respect, but a lot of people, a lot of books, a lot of podcasts are talking about changing your life and how hard it is. The hard part is taking the decision to change the decision. I want to have a different life. This is the hard part. But then every time there is something inconvenient in your life, if you ask yourself, how do I say, if somebody is criticizing you, I had one co-worker and he was pissing me off. He was criticizing me all the time. I mean, I'm a good HR. I'm one of the best in my countries. Without modesty, I'm saying that. I know my worth in this part. And he was criticizing me. You motherfucker, you know? What in the world is wrong with you? How can you not see my results? And then I remember this lesson. And I wonder, where do you criticize yourself so much? And I had two areas. I was focused so much on results, then I took upon the failures in recruiting without taking into consideration that the company offer was too low. I was not able to provide, but that was not related with my skills, but with the company decision. And the deepest and most intimate was criticizing my body. I always dreamt of being thin, and instead of becoming thinner, I became fatter with years, you know. And last year it was the menopause moment that made a huge jump on my weight, and I was not respecting my body anymore. I was criticizing my face, my eyes, my belly, my hands, my legs, everything about it. And he was reflecting that. The moment I started to be a little bit gentler with me, I'm not still happy with my body, but instead of criticizing it, I'm working more like, I'm 45. I used to have really thin waist. I'm not having it anymore because I'm not 20 anymore. I'm fucking 45. Things are changing in the body with age. And I don't have the will to be a fitness lady. I like my beer from time to time. I like my juice from time to time. I like sweets from time to time. I like bread a lot. So I'm not a fitness lady. So I'm not a thin type of person. So I just can accept myself or choose to be frustrated for not eating and drinking things that I like, which is worse for me, you know? So, but the moment I stopped or reduced, now I'm working perfectly well with that guy. I still don't like him. I don't know if he likes me, but we respect each other a lot. And we work as a team. We don't have to marry, but we can respect each other and not criticize and support each other for a common goal. This is what is all about learning the life lessons. Loving yourself in small ways. Because if you add one coin, you will become a millionaire pretty soon. But you have to add one coin every minute of your life, every day.
That's true. But life lessons don't stop with just self-love, you know. I've noticed that and this is quite usually an issue with ladies, with women. You kind of love yourself, and you really, 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 really do. You know, when I start questioning and digging in their subconscious and their psyche and start, you know, drawing things out, I can say, but they do love themselves. So where the hell is the issue, basically, you know?
No, that's
When
a
it
question for
comes-
myself too. Please teach me.
and then it turns out that, you know what, whilst I will just state this as well. In the very basis of things, there's always just two energies, two avenues, two choices that we operate from. It's either love or fear. Just two. Nothing more, nothing less. In the very basis of things, because it's either we operate, we think, we create, etc., from love, or we go from the fear base. So fear, again, it can spread into so many different other things. Remember, always, it's either from love or from fear. Two options only. But then when you know, you kind of notice that she really loves herself. So where is the problem? There can be, yeah, well,
I
there
have
can
so
be
many questions right now.
There you go. There can be certain other things, and this is something I was struggling big time for a very long time myself too. You know, actually, I was learning about self-love, and whilst I felt that was going quite all right, not perfect per se, but all right. But there was actually this other nuance. Women, especially, they give their power away in all the many different ways. They give their power away. They give their value away. We spoke about that tiny bit earlier as well, very briefly. Another type of lessons, for example, they feel like they don't really deserve just something. They deserve everything else. But that something there, they don't deserve for some reason. Whether it's money, whether it's relationship, whether it's a gift, or I don't know, full night's sleep, whatever it is for each case. Each individual is just so different, right? So the life lessons, it is, yes, overall about self-love, but then sometimes like it can be something quite a bit different. When we speak about inner power, for example, you know, I myself was going through this huge, long phase of being constantly busy and being just, you know, almost not exactly feeling used, but like somebody wants something from me all the time. I'm sure many again can relate to that feeling. You're just like pulled and pushed to all the sides, and you feel like you're in the middle of a hurricane. You know, things just fall around you, and you kind of have to grab everything because it's kind of your responsibility, you know. But then again, when you give your power away, which is a lesson by itself, nothing to do really with your self-love. I love myself. But I kept giving my power away to other people, you know. I kept giving my power away in terms of time. I donated my time to the things or to the people that actually didn't even ask for it, you know. Or I donated my goodwill, let's say, to the people that didn't even need it. Or, you know, again, especially for women, this is quite common one, and this is definitely a big one in terms of when we enter relationships. We have this tendency to just melt somehow, to lose our backbone a little bit because we want to be good, we want to be likable, and again, we lose that inner power in a way. We don't become victims, not per se. But we give something away a bit too much. Is that familiar?
Yes. Yes. Saying no was one of the hardest lessons.
No. There
and
you
I'm
go.
still learning. I still need to remember it. I learned it and I still need to remember it because periodically I get in the same situation that you mentioned earlier. People are asking. And I need to remember, no.
There you go. It's that you have your own backbone. It's just that you need to get it back or need to remember that it's there, you know, and you can do it literally physically. Just stand tall remind yourself, you know what, because if you have come across a certain lesson, you'll always remember about it. And this is another thing we do in the sessions, and very important part, in fact. We look for answers. I have this saying that knowledge is power. We always look for answers. That's half of the job that we do. Answers to anything. You come to me with a problem, we look for answers. What the origins are, what the circumstances are, how does this or that look like, how does it feel like, how does it, taste like, all kinds of answers. And we go deeper and deeper and deeper, because that's something you can keep for life. These are answers. Once you kind of met those answers, you felt them even, they stick with you. Yeah. And usually they will be related to your lesson or lessons. And then it's just enough to remember about that. Remember those answers you gathered, that information you have inside of you, and just stand tall and come back to that feeling that, you know what, we no longer do that. We're doing that from here on out. Breathe it in and go. Your state changes immediately. So when we speak about life lessons, there can be million different ways, million different types of lessons. And sometimes it's just about ourselves. Sometimes it's about others. Sometimes it's, something in between. Sometimes it's about work. Sometimes it's about something else. But at the end of the day, well, yes, it is all about self-love, self-respect, own power, saying yes when it's needed, saying no when it's needed, pushing things forward. And I'd say it's very important to keep balance in life, in all the things, because we can develop new lessons, new struggles, new challenges just by sliding out of balance. And it happens quite, quietly, somewhere in the background, somewhere, very small. And it's like step by step, they just keep kind of sliding away. Let's say, an example of, I think quite a lot of people have experienced. You come home from a very, very difficult, busy day, and you have a bar of chocolate or a glass of wine, but pick yours, pick your poison. What happens? Okay, so you're satisfied. You did a bad thing. Boo-boo, next time you're not going to do that again. Next time comes, what do? I need that chocolate. Or I need that glass of wine. But then that one bar isn't enough anymore. You need more. It's like when we slide out of balance with ourselves, we start falling in different types of pits, or, again, like call as you will. Always keep balance in order not to land a new life lesson. That's also very important. And I like how you spoke about the universe kind of showing things to you. I call them the mirrors. It's the mirror effect, right? And in fact, again, it's highly related to the state, to the inner state. If inside of myself, I might be feeling, let's say that I don't deserve respect for some reason, I will see that everywhere I go. I'll see that my salary will be low. I will be disrespected on every step of the way. I will have a job that I don't like. Basically, we can put so many other things there, and it's going to be mirrored back at me. And these things will happen as long as it's needed, unless we open up our eyes, we open up our mind or perception, we start questioning things, start thinking, what is it? Why am I attracting these situations? And you're very correct also when you said either I'm doing that to myself or I'm doing that to others. And usually it's going to be quite a mix of both. And especially here's an interesting one that a lot of relationships actually go through. When we speak about romance, I'm looking for an example. There was quite recently, the guy was just so angry all the time. There was a lady I worked with, and the guy is just so angry all the time, shouting and, have these outbursts even. And she just couldn't understand where is this energy coming from towards her, because by default, they did have quite okay relationship, you know, as far as I kind of dug into their story. And then I started questioning her, and I said, you know, but this is your mirror right there. This is something you're attracting towards you. This huge anger, this energy. And then I asked her, what about you yourself? Where are you carrying this anger? Where does that go? You know, and she said, like, I never like speak out loud, but I just like can't stand when he does this or that, you know, like this internal nagging. She doesn't even speak it outward, but internally she's nagging the guy. And what do you think? You know, what goes around comes back around.
That. He was nagging her.
Exactly. So the story is always inside of us. The answers are always inside of us. Everything is inside of us. It's just a matter of us literally, you know, having a look, asking the hard questions, and even more so being brave enough to hear what the truth is. You don't need to say it to anybody. You don't need to go and proclaim it somewhere on the street, you know, or on the internet these days. But just admit it to yourself. And again, make a strong decision. What are you going to do with that? That's conscious living. You can stick with the old ways, but then you know what the consequences are. And that's your conscious decision. And that's also all right. Right? Or you can do something about it. You can do something different.
One question that popped my mind while we were talking about soulmates and good soulmates. Since we are talking about energy, one question that just popped my mind was, what's the difference between the energy of a soulmate and a guardian angel?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it just crossed my mind.
You know what, these terms, these labels almost, they kind of mix and match. The same thing when we speak about twin flames versus soulmates. But generally, as far as I've worked with angels, guardian angels usually, or archangels, angels by themselves come from higher hierarchies.
Okay.
I'll just put quite a silly question and answer here that I get quite a lot for those maybe that feel, you know, they never dealt with such topics before. There are so many different entities. We may think that we are just alone, you know, as humans or as souls even. There's so many different beautiful entities out there, and many of them have nothing to do with the human life even. And part of those entities are higher hierarchies usually, and part of those hierarchies we have archangels, or just regular angels, you know. When we speak about guardian angels, either usually it will be an assigned entity, again, perhaps from your soul group. It doesn't have to be human. That's the beauty of it. Or sometimes guardian angels can become our very close souls, very close relatives. They sort of take on that role once they pass. Let's say if we have husband and wife and somebody passes quite early and they really loved each other, you know, the soul, they're really close on the soul level even. That person may become a guardian angel, or a parent, a sibling, you know, ancestors. The most guardian angels I've come across is either entities that are not really human fully, or rather our ancestors, because they kind of support that, you know, that you're the next in line, and they kind of support you through that process, because you are bringing forward anything that was basically in the history, you know. As your family tree, you're bringing that forward, and you have a lot on your shoulders, in fact. So guardian angels can also be ancestors, and they do protect us. They do nudge us, you know, especially when we are about to enter really, really dangerous situation and it's not perhaps supposed to happen. they will intervene. However, I'll tell you this, we have a lot of beings in our personal team. Every single human being has a team of helpers. One of those helpers is a guardian angel, another might be, a guardian, let's say, in terms of your work or finances. Another guardian may be more responsible for your spiritual growth, or another might be responsible for something else, We have a whole team working with us. But they
That's
can't
very
really tell.
reassuring,
It is, and often it's like you just kind of whisper something in there and you feel almost like you're heard. You are being heard. And the thing is, I'll tell you, if you don't ask, they can't help. They're not really allowed to intervene too much, and they're bored. They want to help us. They want to help each and every one of you. Ask for answers, ask for clear signs, ask for guidance, ask for them to reorganize things for you. And I'll tell you, recently I had an interesting situation. Out of nowhere, there was this person almost as if attacking me online, out of nowhere, I swear to God. And I was questioning myself, why did I, attract this type of experience? Again, the mirror effect. Well, I did come to my conclusion why that happened, but it was kind of going on for quite a while, to the point where I could have landed actually in serious problems. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but it was just so out of nowhere and so unnecessary and wrong even. And of course, I untangled whatever was going on in my own world, the things that I needed to change. But at the same time, I also asked my team, can you please remove this situation from my timeline? I got the message, got the lesson, got it. And now please get rid of it. This I don't want, ever to deal with that again. I simply, cancel any further experience on that. And what do you know? Immediately, everything is
nice.
solved. Yeah, this is how it works. You need to ask, talk, speak out loud or whisper where in your thoughts you are heard. You're not alone, but you need to speak up, which is again something of a lesson for most people, especially women. Inner power, speaking up, expression. So speak up, just try it out. As silly as it may seem, as much as you want to laugh about yourself sometimes that you're talking to yourself or somebody out there,
Just do it and see what happens,
See what happens. Exactly.
It's not like we are asking, suggesting you to throw yourself from a building. Just talk to yourself for 5 minutes and see what happens,
Exactly. So guardian angels and a whole team.
How do we recognize an old soul?
Good question. Old soul. Well,
I'm assuming that old soul means also wise.
Huh? Yes and no. Usually, yes. You know what? I'll give you a really interesting comparison here. If you think about, let's say, you have a group of pensioners, 80, 90 years old people, humans. And then when you have a look at that group of those different older people there, it's interesting. Some of them will feel more and even look like almost like they're still 20, They're thinking, they're speaking, their actions, everything is very, young or very youthful. Where some other might be rather, getting ready for exiting the life, and they're a bit more somber and, more, sad even, and without really too much hope. Then there might be those that that are eager to know things, to learn, and they're quite witty and quite, you know, smart and experienced, and they're sharing it, and they want to, you know, soak in even more. And then there are those who feel like they're stuck somewhere. Whatever the age that was, they're just stuck and they have regressed from there. You know, there are loads of different types of people when we reach, let's say, an older age. And same applies for old souls. Depends what you have done with those experiences that you have gathered through each and every one of those lifelines or lifetimes or incarnations. Depends also whether or if you have overcome those lessons that you did set yourself up for, you know, of learning or not. It depends on what did you do with all of that. Did you actually do something about it? Did you raise your consciousness? Did you question things? Did you work on yourself? And it's not necessarily a hard work. It's just consciously, you know, having a look at things. Right? So when we speak about old souls, well, what I would say rather, they're more experienced and more complex people. Because if you think, you can take that same comparison with, you know, pensioners, let's say, older people. They have gone through quite many years, quite many experiences there. Same with old souls. It's just they have had a lot of different lifelines or lifetimes or incarnations. But the question is, what did they do with them? Yeah. So what I've noticed that usually, yes, they will be a bit more advanced or a bit more complex of type of people, deeper, definitely quite deeper. They will always seek more, seek something juicier, seek something, you know, more of quality, that is usually non-material. You know, they will seek for something more, or they'll help usually others a bit more. They're more complex beings, but not all of them, because imagine if you have lived so many incarnations, but you have not learned a thing. So it's like you're a walking being with all of those experiences, good and bad, but you have not done a single thing about it. What's the end result there?
True story. True
Yeah.
story. Two more questions I have for you. I took advantage of your availability. Thank you for still being
Go
with
ahead.
me.
Of course.
One thing that I'm trying really to figure it out is what seems to be, in my eyes, something like a war between men and women, feminine and masculine. I wouldn't put it like in bodies. Especially in Romania, because I'm watching a lot of external Facebook groups and influencers, so on and so forth. And it seems that outside Romania, there are a lot of men who started to speak for women and a lot of women who started to speak for men. For me, this means just balancing out the energies. We are working as a team. So it's a really nice speech to listen to and watch. And also in the groups, no matter the question, people are gentler. In Romania, the social media, and not only, it's full of jokes against marriage, women against men. They are now good men. All of them are just want just to fuck. All of them are immature, cheaters, liars, irresponsible, so lazy, dirty, so on and so forth. On the other side, we have men. If you marry, your life is over. Lots of joke about it. Women are drama, whores. I don't know. They are not so vocal, to be honest. But anyway, this was also reproduced in my dating application. You do know that I have my dating application.
Yeah.
And in this dating application, the intentions are public on the profile. So when I'm registering, I'm asking Leah, this is how there is a character in the application, he's asking, what are you looking for? And you have relationship or socializing, like I want to have a serious relationship or meet new friends. And then you have a lot of sexual options because I'm trying to build communities. You are into polyamorous relationship. This is your community in Leah. So I'm not judging. I'm just matching people up on mutual interest, you know, so that they don't surprise and hurt each other.
Yeah.
That's my goal. This is why I have so many options. Surprisingly for me, and I still didn't figure it out, I would say that 80% of the male population have almost exclusively the sexual options, so no relationship. And in a perfect mirror, like, if I would count them, would be like really perfect mirror to each other. The ladies are looking for a serious relationship. What do you think? What happened on soul's level? What's your speculation? I know that we don't know the personal history, but definitely there is a pattern there on social media and groups. And I was part of dating groups in social media, and it was the same energy, like almost rejecting each other. And as a paradox, always looking to meet each other because we are not made to be single. No matter, a lot of people will comment on this part, but we are not meant to be single.
No.
We became so smart, and we survived despite the fact we are the weakest being in all animal world, because we built communities, because we built couples, because men protected women and women supported men. So we are meant to be couples, and we are meant to be communities.
Yeah.
What do you think happens on soul levels that we are fighting each other so much?
I very much like this question. I have a lot to say, actually.
I'm listening.
Number one, when we speak about women and men, again, we just need to remember always, and this is also I'm reminding to myself now before I'm going to go where I'm about to go, you know, that this is just an avatar. This is something that your soul doesn't have a gender at all. Your soul has chosen your avatar, and let's say if that's a female body, it will come most probably with certain amount of feminine energy, which will be usually, you know, more than the masculine energy. For those that maybe meet this subject for the first time, every human has masculine and feminine. It just differs. For some it's more of that and less of that, and vice versa. For some it's more balanced. And again, when we incarnate, we choose our parents, we choose our country, location, right? We choose the age, the era, when are we going to be born?
Nice.
And we change, of course, and we change so many other aspects, and it's so that sometimes souls wait for a very long time just to be born right then. Right then and there, right? So they wait out until that point right there. But that aside, we choose all of these aspects. Now, when we are born into, let's say, female body, you can imagine that one country or even one continent will differ from the other in terms of how things are perceived. I'll bring up India again. It just came to my mind versus, let's say, states.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Drastical difference of how
even Asia and states.
Asia and states, same thing. Yes, drastically differs from how let's say what role women play in society. Number two, number one. Number two, what role they play within the family setting. Now, if you take, for example, Europe, the whole of the Europe, more or less the same, you know, within every country, more or less at least. Also a bit closer to the USA, I believe. Right? So men and women, when we incarnate, when a man takes their own avatar, that will come also with certain, I'm not even sure if I'm using the right words, expectations, but not per se.
Setup.
So yeah, it's some kind of a setup that you already have implanted there that you know, come with. And then what happens? Then is the upbringing. So for those who are planning on having children or have little ones at home or are working on their own inner child, I'll tell you what, up until age approximately 7, 8, children soak in everything they see, they hear, everything that's around, and they soak it in like almost as if they're sponges. They soak that information in, and then they usually build something from that, some kind of a program, some kind of a pattern. It's basically their theory that they will apply into practice later on. It's almost as if they gather all the necessary things so that they will be later on able to go and learn their lessons or fulfill their mission or fulfill their purpose or whatever it is. And when we speak about men and women, of course, it naturally comes with, you know, the older generation, aka the parents, teaching, oh, but girls don't do that. Oh, but girls don't hit boys. Oh, girls don't do this, you know, or for the boys, again, is the opposite. Oh, boys don't cry. We need to be strong, you know. Boys need to always protect the girls and so on and so forth. It's almost like it's injected in terms of programming. It's injected there. Now,
it's like settings in a computer, you know?
It's settings, exactly. That's what I always say as well, you know, the body, the brain is the computer, the processor, and then the memory stick, the programming. Yeah. So
Windows.
there we go.
Windows. Buggy Windows.
Exactly. Because you install or uninstall apps on it or certain programs. And it actually literally works like that. You know, you can upload or delete a program or a trauma or a pattern. But that's not the point. The point is that nowadays, I'm speaking about soul evolution and human evolution in general as well. We're at the point where we, as all together, as a collective, we are breaking stereotypes and we're breaking them down fast. Now, imagine, for example, 50, 60 years ago, would you imagine that we would have a gay parade going on the street? A celebration for gay people.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, right? Would you imagine that ladies would be voting or, you know, doing whatever they are doing these days, running companies,
businesses?
Yeah. That was an impossible idea back then. So we are breaking these stereotypes and in fact
refusing to have children if they are able to.
Yes, exactly. Or we have stay-at-home dads and working moms as a combination, you know, why not? So we're breaking these old stereotypes that actually have been cultivated for centuries. Actually, for centuries and centuries, is happening very fast. So we're feeling this impact, and it hurts sometimes, especially for those that feel that they don't want to open up, you know, their perception. They don't want to see anything outside of that box that it's, you know, was there before, because maybe they're scared, maybe they're, you know, feeling something else, but it's being broken. And now, where this conflict comes in, you imagine, like on an individual level, we all bring these programs forward. Not all of them. During that time between incarnations, we choose what is it that we are going to bring forward. But the soul usually chooses to continue the story, to continue, repeating that lesson for the sake of having it learned. So a lot of those also come from past lives on an individual level. All women are cheaters, or all women are, witches and other words, all men are this or that, these programs. It's almost like we come in with them, unless somebody injects them inside of us. And then you take that and you combine it with this part of evolution where we're breaking these stereotypes, we're breaking this programming. It's almost like there is this power clash. We're breaking it, we like it, but then we're still angry about it.
Oh, now I understand.
Yeah. So it was
too many changes. It's kind of normal. It's like taking your kid and moving around all the time. He will be crying a lot.
Exactly. And that's how the psyche feels. Because on the soul level, we're ready to open up, we're ready to let go, we're ready to learn. But then the mind comes in, the subconscious mind. That's what holds all of our programming, and it says like, no, it's not going to work. But then there's the soul part, the higher part, the heart even. It says something else. It's a huge conflict, and especially why we feel it these days, because the evolution is happening exponentially now. It was going very slow, and now suddenly it's like this. Because it's time that this happens. And the more it happens, the faster it happens. It's like, I don't know, like a ripple effect. Am I saying it correctly? Like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
That's small, but then it just goes and it gets bigger and bigger. So we're breaking these stereotypes. Another thing is that we're breaking, on a collective level, we're breaking a lot of old patterns in terms of who we are, fitting into certain roles, fitting into certain doctrines, almost, fitting into shoulds and shouldn'ts, and what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Again, if you think back to, I don't know, 40s, 60s, or even the previous century, versus what's going on now. Everything is right open. We have opened that Pandora's box, and everything has just come out, whether it's sexuality, whether it's gender issue, whether it's anything.
We question everything right now.
We question everything for now. Exactly, that's the point. And that's another thing. We're breaking these shoulds and shouldn'ts and all these old programs as a collective. In general, the feminine, the masculine, so we're finding our footing again. We're finding our own identity from scratch, basically, these days. We're coming back to ourselves. And if you identify as a soul without, any specific something there, you will just be that, and you are allowed to do that. So we have come now, we have incarnated in a whole different time, actually, especially the very new generation that comes in. They're already different. They're already open. They already know.
Oh my God. I love them.
Exactly. It's like they all already come with all that new stuff that we are just now kind of opening up to us. They come with that already downloaded in their mind, in their psyche. They're so open. And it's just that we are catching up. We're still just catching up. And this is happening extremely fast. And it is some kind of a bit of a inner power struggle, a bit of a clash there. So this is why I think I feel we can see all of this, these outbursts, and then at the same time we want it. It's just cleansing. And those that can't, again, do the inner work for one reason or another, they just refuse. They'll keep being angry.
And they will be the ones who will not stop hurting.
Exactly.
Really, if you really want to stop hurting, just ask the questions.
Exactly. And the funniest thing is that, you know what, it affects only the person themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. One last question, or like,
Mhm.
I don't know, I would stay with you the whole evening and, you know.
Same. We can
Yeah.
always talk for hours.
But
Go on.
for sure, we'll have
Mhm.
others. So as long as you will be open and willing
No, of
to,
course.
we just scratched a little bit the surface right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What advice? I know you don't like the advice word, but what advice, what thought, final thought do you have for people who have listened to us today?
Mm-hmm.
What guidance, to put it in your words, what guidance
Yes.
do you have?
My guidance, what advice? I do have quite a lot, but you know what? It's always a bit difficult when you kind of speak with an individual, then you kind of know what to advise them on. But in general, for our watchers, first of all, I would say, you know, as the wise man once told, the fastest road to insanity, I'm trying to cite it right, the fastest road to insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So my advice is, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait for somebody to come and rescue you, whether you are in a relationship, whether you are not, whether you're single or hoping or whatever the you know circumstances. Don't wait for somebody or something to come and rescue you. It's never going to happen. Don't wait for a miracle to happen. And this sounds harsh, and I'll tell you why. Because it will never happen. And you know why? Because it's up to you, to ask to each individual themselves to make it happen. It's almost like you create this fertile ground for miracles to happen. And you already know that they will be there. That's a different kind of story there. But don't wait for a rescue. Gather your inner power, gather your will, and change your story, change your narrative that you're living. Whether it's related to learning your lessons, to overcoming challenges, to whatever it is. Get through it. Question things, research things, seek out help. You're not alone. Nobody is alone in this world, you know? But rewrite your story. Don't wait, because the worst thing is that we wait until the very end of life. And then there's this really, really sad kind of feeling, you know, the bittersweet feeling about your life. It was beautiful, but I wish I did that, or, you know, had that, Don't wait for your life to end, you know, because your life is right here and now. And there's so much strength, so much fuel, so much good energy in just a decision, a choice. Make a decision that from here on now, not tomorrow, from now, I will do this, or I will stop that, or I will go for what I want, because it's available to you, you know? So don't wait, do it now. If you feel cold, just do it. And you know, if you're feeling that you can't get over a challenge, whether it's about your dream partner, or whether it's about your job or a health situation, whatever it is, just know that your challenge was pre-planned by your soul in order for you to overcome it. So you were that clever that you put that on your path, whatever it was, because you already knew that you'll be able to overcome it. There's no way around, there's always a way through it. That's the fastest roads to beautiful things. Yeah, and if you're facing a challenge, you know that you are already capable to overcome it. And that's a fact. And I'll tell you another thing. I have not met a single soul destined for loneliness. This goes out to all the singles or all of those who feel unhappy in their relationships. We're not meant to suffer. Always remember that. We're not meant to suffer. We are meant to learn from the lessons and live happily ever after, to make it into like a poetic end of the story.
Yeah.
They're not meant to suffer. Keep that in mind. So when we speak about karma, even don't give that beautiful responsibility, accountability of your own life away to someone or something, you know, because then you become a victim. What do victims say? Oh, it's their fault. It's karma's fault. Or it's a fault of somebody else. No. Take your accountability back to yourself. Take your inner power back. Raise and just make a decision. What am I going to do about this? The situation, this whatever it is, you know? And if you're happy, just enjoy it. Just be grateful. Because that's also something you have accumulated, whether in this life or throughout many, many lifetimes. Yeah. And another thing, we have goals and wishes and dreams for a reason. Again, for those, if you're talking about romantic relationships, singles especially, and they're dreaming of, you know, meeting that one guy or one girl, or, you know, whomever that is, or even for couples, if they're not in a really good relationship, but they feel they want to stick together. Again, that's a goal right there. You know, we will be happy together. Think of it almost as if it's a ladder, right? So that's where you are, and that's where the goal is. Why am I showing it higher? Because you need to grow into a person in order to meet your goal. It's not going to happen otherwise. And this is what we're talking about, the lessons, right? So once you overcome the lessons, the challenges, the hardships, and they don't have to be hard. Be playful about it. Question yourself, be the, you know, CSI person or investigator of your own life. Like, what is now happening? Or how did I attract that? It doesn't have to be all tears and anger, but grow into being that person that meets your goal. Because when we talked about these layers of different roles and programs and patterns and trauma, especially trauma, you know, we can't see anything outside of that. That's very important to always keep in mind. And let's say your perfect partner is just right here around you, but you can't see them unless you have kind of gotten rid of all that keeps you busy and occupied and actually, you know, free enough to be able to see them. Does that make sense?
For me, totally.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Don't wait. Have dreams, have goals, because these are available to you. If you didn't have them, then there wouldn't be any possibility that, you know, it's on your path, let's say. And become that person to meet that goal, that wish, that dream thing. And one more last thing I will add, though, about soulmates, about relationships, and especially the happy relationship. I have heard this question coming my way quite often from my clients. And they say, you know what if I'm late? What if I can miss my chance? What if my soulmate is never going to show up? You know, it doesn't work that way, because we have soul contracts in place and they still need to carry their soul contract through with you. If they're supposed to be your beautiful long-time partner, perhaps they're just waiting on a soul level for you to reach that place where you can finally meet. And they will never walk you by. They will never, you know, walk away from your life if they're supposed to be there. These things as such do happen for a reason. We do have a free will on what to do with what, but the soul contracts usually happen 100% when they're scheduled. Only sometimes, you know, you might be the one that still needs to reach a certain point, or vice versa. Maybe you're the one waiting for your partner. Yeah. Beautiful. On that note, I think in terms of advice and or guidance, that's what I want to say. Don't give up, but don't wait. Don't wait.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes,
that's why
100%.
Elina is a guide, and she's not the only one. Whatever you resonate, Get online,
Exactly.
listen to podcasts. You will resonate. Resonate means it's touching your heart. It's like when I'm crying, when I see kittens, you know, and I feel very impressed. Whatever you feel like impressed you, go on and ask for help for a person that is working that way. It's offering that type of guidance. It can be past life, it can be inner child, it'll be, and you can ask Elina's help, or it can be just talk therapy or somatic therapy or bioenergy and or Reiki, whatever. But study a little bit. Social media is an amazing tool if you use it properly, not just for, you know, shallow stuff. And it can be a fantastic guidance to that. And be your own miracle. No?
Yes.
I have podcast on my blog, and I'm talking there about miracles. And I do believe that the way we define miracles is not the proper way, because miracles are within reach always. But somebody decides to define miracles as being something completely untouchable, like somebody coming back from the dead or stuff like this. But it's not true. And I was starting from the fact that we are still alive. I'm 45. Every second of my life, there were opportunities for me to die. Now, every time I'm crossing the street, every time I'm touching something that is electrically connected or whatever, I'm walking the stairs, walking the dogs, walking by a person. Each moment of my life, there are opportunities to die. But yet, here I am. I'm 45. I'm blooming. I'm happy. I'm healthy. But mostly, I'm alive, you know? I could die. I could have died in the belly. I could have died at birth while learning to walk. It didn't happen, but I only grew. And you, the one who are listening to us, you are also a miracle by yourself, just by being alive. And every time you go by, every day of your life, it's a miracle because you didn't die. And it's a miracle that you loved and you loved, and you made love with someone, or you pet a dog, or hugged your loved ones, or your wife, your spouse, your children. Each moment of that is a miracle. Is it within reach? Is it within reach? So be your own miracle. Just take the decision to be your own miracle. People will wonder, how do you become rich? How did you found your soulmate? Because you decided at one point today, when you are listening, to be your own miracle and to have a different life from the one that you have right now if you're not happy. Thank you. It was a fascinating discussion. Thank you for being so vulnerable, for all the things that you taught us. I hope that this will become a habit, you know, and I'm hoping that people will ask questions so that next time we talk, to have more than my questions and your things that you are imagining to share, but to answer questions, you know, to people, and offer guidance this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautifully said. We are the miracle, each and every single person.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Just remember that, each and every single person. And thank you so much for having me. I've really, really enjoyed being here today. And truly, questions are welcome, because we never know what you might be interested in hearing, you know, or finding out. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart of having me here today. And I hope to talk to you soon again.
Me too. Me too. Take care, everyone. Thank you for watching.